The Red River Farm Network celebrating women's role in agriculture throughout March with our Agricult-HER segment. And this segment is made possible by the Minnesota Soybean and Research and Promotion Council, Minnesota Corn Growers, and Ag Country Farm Credit Services. Alicia Harstad with us, NDSU Extension Agent in Barnes County. Alicia, thanks for taking time to visit with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, this is great to talk with you. First of all, let's let people get your background a little bit. Talk about where you grew up, where you came from, and how you got into being an extension agent.
Yeah, well, I grew up in Hoople, North Dakota. So grew up on a farm up there. And, I've always been kind of involved in agriculture. I always kind of joke my first job interview was, hey, get up, you're going to work. So my first job was actually hoeing fields. And so I always kind of had an interest in weed science because, some of those days I reflect back, I'm like, there's got to be an easier way, right? But unfortunately, we're still kind of dealing with weed issues. And so after that, I went to college and went to NDSU. I got an undergrad in crop and weed sciences. I had a couple sales internships. I actually worked for a plant breeder as well, too. So I kind of started learning all the things I didn't want to do, which I think is also valuable as well, too. But because initially when I graduated high school, I thought I wanted to be a plant breeder, worked with a plant breeder and kind of realized, maybe I don't want to do that. No, I worked in, and I had some really good sales people that I worked under, but I still wasn't really sure about sales. And then I was getting to graduating. And so I kind of freaked out a little bit and just went to grad school. I don't know if that's the reason why you're supposed to go to grad school, but I was like, I don't really know what I want to do for a job. So I worked under Dr. Kirk Howitt in the plant sciences department. And he brought me to one of the Carrington Research Extension Center field days. And that was kind of when it really started thinking more about extension. So I grew up in the 4-H and in the 4-H program. And so I'd been exposed to extension, but I'd never really seen all the breadth of all the different things that extension does. So when I went to that field day, that really kind of opened my eyes of some of the different opportunities that are available within extension. So I actually started my career in Steele County. I was there for about 2 years, and then it was in Stutzman for about 8 years. Now I've been in Barnes for just shy of 3. Because I'm also married to a farmer in Rogers, so I've been making my way a little bit closer to home as well too. So when I'm not working for extension, I also end up helping on the farm sometimes too as well too.
So you're still doing that too, even though...
Yeah. Although this time I get to usually be in a tractor. So that I do like that because I usually end up in the grain cart. So a little bit, I would say a little bit more fun jobs maybe.
So looking at your job at Extension, if you could give us a typical day of different things that you do there. I mean, there probably isn't a typical day like most people, but
Yeah. So that's what I actually really like about extension is every day is a little bit different. So, and it really, sometimes you might think you know what you're going to do for that day, and then you get a phone call and everything changes. We do outreach education. So that might look like answering the phone. It might look like going out on a house or farm call to help someone with an agronomy problem or a horticulture problem, and actually just working one-on-one with people. It might look like doing a workshop or program. For example, right now we are in the thick of pesticide training, so we're doing those. And then also we get to do 4-H as well too. So on the county level, we're in charge of the county 4-H program. So whether that county has a fair or achievement day, we get to work with 4-H youth that way too. So it's very diverse, which I do like. So some days I'm presenting, sometimes I'm working on a presentation, sometimes I'm on the phone talking to people and answering questions.
So what do you think the biggest issues that you see facing farmers in the region that you're in right now? What do you think some of those biggest issues are?
Well, I think biggest issue, I think big picture, I suppose, economics always becomes I would say, big thing. That's always kind of the underlining, I would say, or probably on top of everybody's mind is, what crops are we going to grow this year? That's going to pencil out some of those things. So otherwise, I feel like the things that we address more specifically with extension are maybe more specific pest problems, or maybe some of those other specific things that we can help address more on the smaller level. But I think, on the farmer level, they're really thinking big picture and some of those bigger issues of how do we keeping our farm sustainable for the years to come.
What do you think the best part is about being able to work in agriculture? I mean, you grew up around it, you're in it, you live in it, you're married to a farmer. I mean, what is your favorite part of this?
I'm gonna say it's the people. I really, and the connections, um, and getting to know everybody just seems really, helpful, and I just really like making those relationships. I think, and I'm just going to go back to pesticide training. It's probably not exactly everybody's favorite meeting to go to, but I will say it's actually a lot of fun getting to talk to those farmers. And, for the most part, everyone's actually pretty happy coming to pesticide training. So even when it's a topic that maybe isn't the most exciting, it's still fun getting to have that opportunity to make those connections with farmers.
So going back to growing up, or I mean, at any point, role models for you. Who were your role models growing up or now?
Well, even now, I guess I would have to say my older sister, because she's also in agriculture, so she's kind of helped me along the way. Um, I also was in science fair when I was in high school, so my science teacher, got to give a shout out to her, because actually one of my science fair projects was screening resistant kochia. So that, and Dr. Howitt actually helped me with that as well too. So I guess you never really know how things develop. But even now, I love our extension system with the amount of coworkers that I have to work with. It's always great being able to bounce ideas off other coworkers as well too. So I really admire them as well too.
So looking at technology, and how things keep changing all the time, in your line of work in extension, how has technology changed things from when you started to now?
Oh, well, I mean, probably the most obvious one is, just what we're doing right now. Uh, 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 Especially when COVID happened, we switched things on a dime. We went from, doing mostly face to face to now we're probably, a little bit of mix of hybrid type programming to face to face. We have that capability now, technology, to reach people in many different ways, whether it's podcasts or social media, or news articles, whatever it is. So we've gone from traditional programming to maybe using technology to really help reach different audiences.
So looking at your role from a woman's perspective, how do you feel about being a woman in agriculture? How do you think that's evolved since you started? I mean, do you think anything's changed?
Well, I feel very fortunate because I feel like a lot of the women in agriculture before me really made that path for other women. And so I honestly, I feel like there really hasn't been that many barriers for me as a woman in agriculture because of the work that other women have done before me. And so I really appreciate all of the things that other women have done in agriculture. And it's kind of interesting. There is one county agent, she just retired here not that long ago. But at one point she was literally basically one of the only female extension agents. And now we have a lot of female extension agents. So a lot of things have changed in agriculture where you see women, a lot more women really everywhere in agriculture.
Do you have any advice for women wanting to get into agriculture? Anything you would like to tell them?
Um, and I think this kind of really just goes for anyone, but I think the biggest piece of advice for me that I always heard is you can do anything, you just can't do everything right now. And so, and I think that's a really big piece of advice because I think sometimes we always feel like we need to do more and do more and do more, and or we're looking forward and I wish we could do this, 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 this. And you can, but just realizing that you can't do everything all at once. And then I think it's also important too to reflect back at some of the things that you have accomplished and how far you've come in different things. There's been, there's all those different things that might challenge you and they're scary, but you come over it and you have that learning experience. And I think it's important to reflect back and realize all the different things that you have accomplished instead of focusing on the things that you wish you could do, or maybe you should do more, or maybe you wish you could do better. Just think back and reflect on what you have accomplished.
Looking at what you have accomplished, think about things that you've done. What are some things that really stick out for you that you feel really good about accomplishing in your career so far?
Well, probably I would say one of my favorite highlights, maybe right now, is the Junior Crop Scout School. So we've done that for a handful of years now. And we did it one time or a couple times Jamestown. We did it one time at the Daisy, our Carrington plot. And then we've done it a couple of years now at the Carrington Research Center. And, that is a program for youth 12 to 18 that are interested in agronomy, and we go through some basic scouting things such as taking crop stand counts and doing weed ID and some of those things. But we're actually out in the field and they get to do it and experience it. And so that's been a really good program in getting youth involved in agriculture, because really the big hope with that is maybe it'll be plant that seed, no pun intended, I guess, and then that they will actually want to pursue a career in agriculture, more specifically agronomy.
Do you feel like a lot of youth are leaning towards agriculture now? Do you feel like there's any kind of change or shift in that at all?
Well, I think one thing that is really awesome is with career tech centers and some of those areas, they really are starting to focus more on agriculture. And even, like our local school district in Barnes County North, they have an ag teacher there too. So even if they're not necessarily connected with the Career Tech Center, there's a lot more focus in high school right now about different careers and different job opportunities. I feel like when I was in high school, it was basically you have to get a 4-year degree and, there's this one path that you had to take. And I think high schools and career centers are really opening that options up for youth, which I think is really encouraging. And a lot of them also do involve talking about agriculture and all the different careers that you can do in agriculture.
Alicia, it's been great talking with you. Thanks so much for taking time for us today.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Red River Farm Network celebrating women's role in agriculture throughout March with our agriculture segment, again made possible by the Minnesota Soybean and Research and Promotion Council, Minnesota Corn Growers, and Ag Country Farm Credit Services.